Hello YouTube! This is a very exciting video for me to make because without even realizing, I have been working on this video for the past 4 years now. Since I started college, I have been watching Precure in my spare time. And now as I'm graduating, I've just so happened to also finish my last Precure season. I've watched them all once, and as I've watched them, I've kept a ranking going over my order from least favorite to favorite. My one thing is, I have not allowed myself to move any of the seasons around because I wanted to keep my first impressions intact. So even now, some of these rankings, I'm like, oh, I might want to change those. But I will stay true to what I've written down, and I will go over my first impressions of every Precure season. Now, excluding Wonderful Precure, because that is still airing, so I will be going over the first 20 seasons. Ranking dead last at number 20 in my rankings is Delicious Party Precure. Oh, this was a hard season to sit through. And as I've watched all the other seasons since, the seasons just got worse and worse in my eyes because it's just a copy of other seasons, really. Everything Delicious Party Precure does, other seasons have done better, and anything new that originated with Delicious Party Precure, it was a terrible idea. My first example of a terrible idea that spawned in Delicious Party Precure and hopefully stays there was the battlefield. We went to this same desert scenescape each episode for the big fight, and it just caused everything to blend together, everything to feel the same. Every time a fight scene was happening, I just check out okay, let's go see the same backdrop, see the same scenarios play out, yawn, I'm bored. It was dreadful. And I hated it from the first episode, honestly. I'm so glad that has not seemed to catch on with other seasons. It just felt like a cheap, lazy excuse to not draw other backdrops. Now on to what was seen better in other seasons. The theme of the season itself, it was a food theme. We already had a dessert theme with Kira Precure all mode. We didn't need to see the expansion into savory goods. For starters, they're not as exciting as the sweets, but it's just too similar. The seasons are too similar, and this pales in comparison to Kira Precure, which I will get into later on. We also had the color scheme of the season, which will be a common thread throughout this video, of the pink, blue, yellow cures. And none of the cures here really stood out to be a memorable addition to their colors even. The lead, Cure Precious, she was probably the single blandest lead cure ever. She had nothing going on. She didn't really have any time dedicated to her. She was fun, but she really had nothing. Cure Spicy and Cure Yum Yum were probably some of the better parts of the season, but they're still forgettable at best. And we can see their character traits done better in prior seasons. I also want to touch on Kome Kome, one of the three mascots. I found Kome Kome to be both obnoxious and confusing. I originally thought Kome Kome was pretty cute, but then we see Kome Kome start to grow up and age and be a pet or be a child. Pick one. I don't like this. I want my mascots to stay in their lane. I don't like this going in between. I also have to speak on Cure Finale, who was one of the villains turned heroes, which is a common thing around Precure, which I usually am a pretty big fan of. But I thought Cure Finale was one of the blandest characters I've ever seen in Precure. And if that's the finale, you can keep it. Now, a good ending can save anything. This season did not have a good ending. The ending was dominated by the guys, which, you know, the guys beside characters, they had the black pepper and rosemary, but their plots ended up being the big plot at the end of the season. Sure, if it had a little balance with the girls, but this is also the season that had the lead cure who had absolutely nothing to do. So going from your lead cure, a girl, having nothing to do, and having the guys who aren't even cures playing such a major role in how things shake out at the end, it just left a terrible taste in my mouth. And that's why this season ranks lowest of the low. Now, in anime overall, I'd probably rank this like a 6 out of 10, which is good. Anything above a 5 out of 10 is like good. But in Precure terms, 6 out of 10 is the lowest. Just to put that in perspective of how much I do adore this franchise. And I've got a lot of positives to say about pretty much all of the seasons. After saying that, I have to speak about another season which I don't have many positives to speak about. Ranking number 19 on my list, it's Doki Doki Precure. At the start of the season, I was having fun. It was kind of similar to Smile Precure. The girls, none of them seemed to really stand out to me, but I felt like I could grow to love them. And then we get the debut of Regina, who completely lit up the season and took it by storm. What a character Regina is. She's just full of energy. She's full of spunk. She was with the villains, but oh, I think she's got a little heroics in her. And we finally get to the mid-season. It's looking like they're shaping Regina up to be the mid-season cure. I was so excited. And then Cure Ace appears. Cure Ace, somebody who we've never seen before, comes out and defeats Regina and sends her away. Cure Ace. I can't think of a worse Precure episode, honestly. A single episode took all the steam out of a season. We go from who I'd consider the fan favorite, looking like she's going to be mid-season cure, to a complete random coming in, causing the destruction of the redemption arc that was about to come and complete itself. It was a disaster. I lost all interest in the season. I was just watching it, waiting, like, oh my god, what's gonna happen to Regina now? What are we doing with Regina here? Is she gonna get any justice? But the rest of the season, we see Cure Ace. She has this weird where she's a child, and then when she transforms, she's an adult. Weird. But she's also an obnoxious know-it-all who always has to be right, and she completely steamrolls the other girls at every turn. And like when they're telling her, like, no, we love Regina. No, she's still going out of her way to go and pick fights with Regina, and she's just totally nasty to Regina. It's just like, way to twist the knife. No respect for Regina whatsoever. I would be fine with Cure Ace if Cure Ace on her own was a good character, but she wasn't. She was insufferable. She didn't mesh with the team at all. She just completely took over the show, and it was a train wreck. I guess there was some justice for Regina by the end where she gets redeemed. It's just like too little too late. You screwed the pooch. It's done. The season's a wrap. You hate to see a good thing go so bad. You really do. It was hard for me not to put this last, but I have to remember in the back of my head, like, oh, I really did like the first half of the season. I can't say that I ever liked any of Delicious Party, but I did like some of Doki Doki. No, maybe if I went and rewatched it, I'd probably hate the first half too, since I know nothing better comes from it. But for now, first impression, Doki Doki Precure is second last instead of last. Congratulations. Next is number 18 and number 17. We've got Yes, Precure 5 and Yes, Precure 5 Go Go, with Go Go being 17 and Yes 5 being 18. This was the first team season, And I guess it did the teams pretty well. You do have some cures having more focus and shine than others, but I feel like it was pretty well balanced in the grand scheme of things. The sole reason why this season ranks so low is because of the ship between Nozomi, the lead cure, and Coco, the fairy squirrel mascot who also doubles as her teacher. I don't think I need to dive into why that is disturbing, to say the least. And it was prominently featured throughout, so I just couldn't ignore it, and I have to rank this season lower. The season does have some of the charm and heart of the early seasons. I don't think it has as much as the others, but it still does have that element where I can look back fondly on the season and be like, oh, look at them. Back when it was in the old days, everything was so nice. And those old seasons, they just have so much heart. But this is definitely the most flawed season of the first few seasons, as shown by the ranking. That's not to say I don't have quite a few positives, though. My biggest positive would be Karen, aka Cure Aqua, who I found to be one of the best characters throughout the franchise. She originally couldn't become a cure. It was a shocking reveal. You thought that she was just gonna get her cure status immediately, but no, she had to work for it. And I was like, there's a lot to you, Karen. I see you. She's the student council girl. She seems to be all perfect, all that, but there's a lot more than meets the eye. What I most fondly look back on with Karen is in Go-Go, they gave her a 2-part episode, and I just thought that was like the best. Those episodes were so cool. No, I ranked Go ahead of just plain Yes 5 because Go-Go had Milky Rose. We had Milk in the first season, but she became Milky Rose and Kurumi. And I really enjoyed that addition. I thought she added an extra bit of spice that made Go-Go stand out to me more. I mean, they're pretty much right there, but that's why I would put Go-Go higher. Like, I also have to give a shout out to Atona, which I watched in full. I enjoyed it. I had the same main issue of the Nozococo ship, which reels it back down a bit, but I did enjoy that. I have my flaws with it. Maybe I'll discuss it another time. It was a good time to me, though. Shout out, it's not on the official ranking because it's not an official season. It's a spinoff or a sequel, whatever. You get it. Number 16 is Hirogaru Sky Precure, the 20th anniversary season. This season took a lot of risk. We had the first blue cure. We had the first guy main cure. Like, they had some stuff, but please. We also had the first adult cure, like main adult cure, in Cure Butterfly. These were some exciting changes for me. I was very curious to see how they'd unfold, but I feel like nothing really came from them, honestly. They played it safe. With so many risky decisions, the season felt pretty safe to me. I don't think it took many chances within the episodes. I'd particularly say that Cure Wing and Cure Butterfly were wasted potential. Now, I've never been like the biggest fan of the orange cures. Like, I like some of them, but they're never my favorite. So maybe I just wasn't gonna care much for Cure Wing anyway. But I found Cure Wing to be a pretty boring character with not much going on. Like, yeah, you were the knight who protected the child. Like, okay. Okay. Cure Wing was fine. Not my favorite, but fine. I feel like there was room to do more there, though. I do. But my main thing was Cure Butterfly. Every time we saw Cure Butterfly, and she had like the best fight scenes, she was super cool, she was super fun. She was a breath of fresh air every time she was on screen. But she wasn't on screen enough. She had a pretty late debut, especially since we saw her on all the original promotion. She came into the mix pretty late. It was like, we couldn't have got her a few episodes earlier. Really? Cure Butterfly, a lot of her individual moments were the moments that most stick out to me, honestly. I thought she was the coolest. But they didn't do enough with her. I so much wasted potential with Cure Butterfly. We could have done a lot more with her. She didn't really have any involvement in the story. And I would attribute that a lot to the late addition of Cure Majesty, who completely came in and stole the show. She was a very safe choice, and she overshadowed a lot of the riskier choices. I also found Cure Majesty to have a lot of the flaws that I just find annoying in general. Like, we've got a baby transforming to be an adult. Like, we have that same pattern. I had that same issue with Kome Kome. I had that same issue with Cure Ace. And then the same thing with Coco. I don't like the mixing of the ages and blah, blah, blah. Oh. So Cure Majesty, we saw her as a baby most of the time. She'd transform and she'd be an adult. But she'd still be acting like a baby. It was just weird to me. I just like couldn't get past it. Can we like age her up and just have her be permanently aged up? I don't know. And she also just came in too late, and they completely centered the show around her by the end. It was too little too late. And I think with the recent seasons in general, the pacing has been very off. Usually the start of a Precure season is pretty fun. We get the cures in the mix pretty quickly. But the past few seasons, they've been waiting too long to debut these cures. And some of them have felt a little rushed. Some of them have just felt like too little too late. I hope next season works on that, because Wonderful Precure even has had the same issue. I did my spring anime halfway recap. I touched on Wonderful Precure back in there if you want my thoughts on that more in detail. But back to Hirogaru Sky, I felt like it was mostly about Majesty and Sky and Prism. While having Cure Sky as the lead was unique. All three of those cures, like, we've seen versions of them before, so it just felt very safe to me to focus on them. I can respect a safe move, but it's just, the season was mediocre because of the safe decisions. And it's pretty forgettable to me, honestly. Even though it just aired, it's pretty forgettable. I will say that Sky and Prism were a fun duo, and Prism in particular, I loved her emotional arc. I found her to be a very compelling character. But taking the chances and not doing too much with them, just, that's why this season is lower down. Number 15 on my ranking is Sweet Precure. It's kind of crazy to me that this season's fallen so low, because I felt like it had such a strong start. But I value a good ending, and I thought this season had a weak ending. Maybe not weak, but the ending let me down from the potential that was building up in the first half. The ending felt like a drastic tone shift, and it just didn't mesh with where we were heading. But that makes sense when you put in perspective that the earthquake happened and they did change the ending. So like, I can give some slack to that and I can like understand it, but it's still just like, oh, what could have been? This could have been a top season if they kept the pace. But no, it falls short and it ends up pretty low in my rankings because of that. But that's not to say I didn't have a good time with this season. The season's main duo of Cure Melody and Cure Rhythm, they're fine. I found them pretty forgettable with time, but they were cool. What most caught my interest was we originally had Siren, the black cat, the villain, running around causing trouble. But she becomes Cure Beat. By this point, I'd already seen the villain turned hero, but this was still a great showing of it. I adored Cure Beat. And I loved Siren. She was very sharp and feisty. I found Siren to be a pretty compelling villain, but we got to see more layers of her through her dynamic with Hummy, who is great. And eventually she gets her redemption and we see her join the team. Cure Beat, what an awesome character. Not my favorite of all the villains turned hero, but she's definitely up there. I adore her. She was the best character this season for me. And she's one of my favorites. She is. but I just love the villain turned hero trope. I love that trope.
I love this.
We also had a more endgame cure. We had the masked cure running around, who was revealed to be Akko. She went on to become Cure Muse. I found her to be more interesting when she was still anonymous, like, please. Then she joined the team, and I don't think she really meshed with the girls. I just don't think there was the chemistry there. I think she was too young, maybe. I don't know, but it was just a letdown, and maybe she just came in too late. I'm not sure. But it just didn't work out for me. But the main thing here really was just the ending, and that's why I ended up ranking this season pretty low. And next is a season which I felt did have a strong ending, Smile Precure. This is pretty much the opposite of Sweet Precure, where I had a bit of trouble with it at first. I could not really connect with the characters. They all felt pretty bland. But then at the end there, we got to see their character arcs really come to a close, and I found each of them to have really compelling end of season character focused episodes that got me invested again for the end game. So that last stretch of episodes before the finale really did this season a favor in my eyes. And then in hindsight, looking back on it, I started to reflect on the fun fairy tale episodes, all the goofy one-off adventures, and it was so lighthearted, so delightful. And I started to look back on the season positively. Now, I will say the season's pretty forgettable. The characters are pretty forgettable. But I do remember it ending strong, so I had to put it above Sweet Precure because I do value a strong ending. I think on a rewatch, I would probably grow to like the season more. It would be interesting to see how I react to a rewatch. Would I, again, just be like, kind of bland or whatever? So I'm curious about that. One of the seasons I'd definitely be curious to revisit. Number 13 was Happiness Charge Precure, the 10th anniversary season, and this is a season that really focused on expanding the Precure lore, and they built a whole Precure world within the season, and I found that to be really exciting. This was another really fun season to me. It was lighthearted, it had the good vibes. My love of the season mostly stems back to one character, Hime, aka Cure Princess. She was a bratty girl, but she was also a little shy. I thought it made for great comedy, but I also found her to be pretty compelling and rootable at the same time. And I got quickly invested in her, and that upped my enjoyment of the season tremendously. The season truly was like a one-woman show to me with Hime. I was eating up her every word, honestly. She's definitely one of my favorite characters. I will say the art style is a little weird this season. I didn't hate it, just a little off-putting. I mean, maybe that's too harsh. I thought it was all right, but there have been prettier seasons, I guess. It didn't really play a factor in my ranking, honestly. But I just figured I'd throw it out there. One of the more controversial points of the season is the romance plot again. We had the god kind of going for the girls, which is weird, but it wasn't as relevant as like Coco was, so it's like whatever. But there was also a bit of a love triangle situation, which the love triangle kind of had me rolling my eyes like, okay, we're really doing this. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't waving the flag, shipping Hime and Seiji at some points. Like, I don't care that it didn't happen, but I was like, okay, I would like to see it.
Does that sound like something you want?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, you'll never get it.
Of course it wasn't gonna happen, but I would have been down for it. It could have been fun. The potential was there, okay? Kill me. Sue me. I had fun with it a little bit. I don't want to see it in Precure. I don't need romance in Precure, honestly. But it was there, and I did get a little invested. A little, just a tad. But I think this season suffers from an ending that leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and that's why it's ended up as low as it has. For a season that was about expanding the world of Precure, the final fight scene, it was an epic one-on-one battle with Keir Lovely and the main villain. Epic fight. Like, truly, it was one of the coolest fights to look back on. But in regards to the story, seeing the Cures sidelined in the finale on a season that was all about expanding the world of Precure, it left a very bad taste in my mouth. I don't want to see one girl doing all the heavy lifting on a season about expanding the team, bringing the team together. I don't want Precure to be a solo show focused on me and Cure when it's a show about teams. I want to see the team working together to take down the final villain. They were just sitting there watching. It drove me insane. Ugh, I couldn't believe it, honestly. Objectively, very cool fight scene. Watching that scene back, it's cool. But as it played out in the story, no. It was not cool. I was not okay with that. I just didn't like how that played out. Number 12 on my list is Healin' Good Precure. I would say it's a pretty forgettable season, but there are a few moments that have really stuck with me. This season had some surprising emotional beats. And I would say most of those come from Cure Grace, the lead Cure, who I found to be one of the most compelling lead Cures throughout the series. Her backstory is that she was sick and she spent time in the hospital, but now she's better. But we find out that it was the villains making her sick the whole time in one of the most shocking plot twist reveals in Precure for me. I was jaw dropped, jaw on the floor, jaw away from my head entirely. It just detached. I could not believe it. Like, it all makes sense. But I just was not expecting them to go there. Well, I wasn't quite invested into the season at that point. That moment, it got me so invested. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I found Rabidin and the other mascots to be pretty cool. Not so much the dog, but the three for the main girls. I thought they were fun. Not like standouts, but I did enjoy their presence. I don't think they were too overbearing. It was a good mix for me. This season also had the staple pink, yellow, blue color scheme. This season was the last season I watched because I started on tropical-rouge and I was going in order and then watching the seasons as they aired. I'd seen that color scheme so many times. I think at the start of the season I was just like, really, we're doing this again? Wow, reinvent the wheel, why don't you? And I do think Cure Fontaine and Cure Sparkle both felt a bit underbaked as characters. Cure Fontaine had a few moments where I enjoyed her, but I never really cared for the sporty character too much, so that element just kind of she lost me with that. And then Cure Sparkle, she never really clicked for me. She didn't take away any, maybe a little bit. I found her a bit obnoxious, but it just wasn't all there with those two. Then mid-season, Cure Earth comes out of nowhere. I thought she was kind of fun, but she lacked personality and she never really clicked with the group, I would say. Her having no personality made sense in the story because she's like brand new. It was fun seeing her explore the Earth itself and learning about the new things, experiencing them for the first time. But I like my characters with personality, so she was kind of set up from the jump. And we didn't get any time to really get introduced to her before her debut. So it was just a little off. But I will give this season a lot of credit. It was the pandemic season, so it had that hurdle going against it. And I'd still say they delivered a solid season. It's nothing extraordinary, but it was a fun watch. I can't believe it. I've got these seasons down at 11 and 10. Futari Wa, Precure, and Max Heart. I would put Max Heart at 11 and Futari Wa, the first season, at 10. The first half of season 1 is some of the best Precure I have ever seen. Truly groundbreaking. You see why this became a whole franchise in those episodes. They're unmatched. Truly stellar television through and through. The rest of that first season and then Max Heart, they were a retread of what we already did, so they just couldn't really comparison. If I was taking that first half of Futari Wa Precure, it would probably be like number one, honestly. But the retread was just, it knocks it down significantly. Because there is a lot of stiff competition in Precure, so many good seasons. Futari Wa had so much heart, so much charm. You could tell the creators were putting everything into this show. And look at it. Iconic. All that heart and charm make up for a lot of the smaller flaws I found throughout. And since it's older season, you get a more aged product, but I would still call it pretty timeless, honestly. I really think this is a timeless show. It'll hold up forever. The driving force of the season was the dynamic between Nagisa and Hanukkah, Cure Black and Cure White, the dynamic duo that make up the Futari Wa Precure. Legendary. They're an iconic duo for all time. Always will be. You can never take that away from them. No. Are they LGBT? I believe so. I view them through a romantic lens, honestly. I feel like that conclusion's pretty straightforward in the show, even though Nagisa had a guy love interest. The chemistry was so strong, like, take it however, but I do see them in a romantic lens, honestly. We also had Akane as a parental figure. She had her takoyaki stand. That was pretty iconic, but I found Akane to be a very fun side character. She's probably the standout side character for me. I've loved a lot of them throughout the show, but she's definitely up there. The mascots, they were a bit obnoxious. I also found them to be fun, and their obnoxious quirks I found to be part of the charm, honestly. Like, yeah, if you had a little fluffy cell phone, it would probably be annoying sometimes, but cute other times. And it definitely serves a purpose. They definitely had some tweaks to work out in future seasons, and they did. But Mipple and Mepple, iconic. What made Max Heart different from the first season is the introduction of Shiny Luminous. I adored Shiny Luminous. I thought she was a great fit, and she makes revisiting the retread of the first season, the same villains, all that. Ugh. She made it worth watching. She made it interesting. She was a good foil to add in. I enjoyed her presence. She's not one of my favorites of all time, but I appreciate what she brings, and if I rewatch, I would watch Max Heart to see her again, because she's that fun to me. But Max Heart, it does rank lower because it was a slog to get through sometimes. It really was just the same thing happening that we saw last season. But it's such a good thing. It's still fun in ways. It's so fun because you can't go wrong with Futari Wa Precure. It feels so crazy to me that it's just at the halfway point. What a great way to start the franchise. I adore it. I can't say enough nice things about Futari Wa Precure. It started it, and nobody can ever take that away. At number 9, I have Futari Wa Splash Star Precure. This season took what worked in the first 2 seasons and expanded on it. It was a great way to move into new characters. There were a lot of similarities, which it gets hated on for, but I feel there were enough differences to really make this season stand out and stand on its own. And hey, I ranked it above Futari Wa Precure, so it's got that. This season had all the heart, all the charm, like the people really put their all into this season. This season, when I was watching Otana Precure, every time I saw Sakime or anything Splash Star related. It just pulled on my heart. It was like returning home after being away. Oh, it's just so comforting. Like, the girls, this is home. This is where everything's supposed to be. You get the Splash Star music going. Oh my gosh. I love it. But yeah, speaking of, we've got Saki and Mei as the duo. They are Cure Bloom and Cure Egret. They later can also become Cure Bright and Cure Windy. I thought that was fun. We got to change it up a little bit. We got new transformations in the mix. They also had amazing chemistry. They made for a dynamic duo. I forgot to mention this when I was talking about Futari Wa Precure and Max Heart, but all three of these seasons had the issue where Nagisa back then and Saki, they had way more time to shine than the other half of their duos. Well, I see that they were the main characters. My main flaw for these 3 seasons is I wish they gave Hanukkah and Mai more of a fair shake of the screen time. Luckily, nowadays they do get a more equal amount of respect when they appear in the crossovers and all of that. But in these seasons, I do wish it was more spread out. But with what we had, very solid duos. And honestly, Hanukkah and May are my favorites. I think they're the better halves. Saki and May get compared a lot to Nagisa and Hanukkah. They do fall into a lot of the similar traits, but they do have their differences. I enjoyed Saki having more of a bakery sense. She was still kind of like the sporty girl, a bit dumber, and May was a bit smarter. And Mai, while Hanukkah was more of the scientific type, Mai leans more into the creative type. And I really adored that. I'm a creative type myself. I'm a writer, and I mean, here I am on YouTube. That's a creative thing of its own. But Mai, she loved to draw, and she was very good at it. And I thought that was very fun to explore with Mai. I really connected with Mai. Now, after talking all sorts of love about Saki and Mai, here I am to say the best part of the season, hands down, is the Kiryu sisters, Kaoru and Michiru. They were the OG villains to heroes. While they're not considered official cures, they are cures. When they became cures at the end of the season, finally returning to all their former glory, finally teaming up with Saki and Mei, it's the best finale for me. The best final arc for me. Seeing the 4 girls coming together to save the world, nothing can compare to that. So epic. Seeing Kaoru and Michiru finally get to be the full heroes that they're destined to be. I think it is a shame that in the All-Stars and all of that, they're not treated as official cures, because their impact is undeniable and they tore through this season. I would have loved to see a sequel season to this one so we could see them in their full cure glory. It's unfortunate that that didn't happen. Well, what can you do? You can dream. And then we also did have them in Otana Precure, which always appreciated. The more I can get of these characters, I will always take. Michiru and Kaoru, some of the best characters to ever appear in the franchise. Hands down. I want to rank this season higher. I do. I think if I rewatched it, I would end up ranking it higher. But let that speak to how good the seasons I've yet to talk about are. That this season that I adore beyond belief has ended up so low on the ranking by comparison. That's just the power of Precure. Coming in at number 8 is Go Princess Precure. I had a great time while watching this season, but as I kept watching more and more, the season didn't really stick with me, and I found myself forgetting a lot of it in hindsight. So I probably ended up piling some seasons on top of it. They went all out with the princess theme, and it was awesome. What else could you ask for, honestly? The theme really leaves a strong impact, and you can feel its blueprint in every episode. Again, this season, we had pink, blue, yellow, and you can definitely feel that. That's probably why it's forgotten a bit, because like we've done it before, please. Cure Mermaid and Cure Twinkle were both enjoyable. Cure Mermaid, she definitely blends into the blue fold a bit more. She feels like knockoff Cure Aqua a bit. She was very cool. I enjoyed her in the season, but in the grand scheme of Precure, she just meshes into the fold. Now, Cure Twinkle, on the other hand, I feel she sticks out a bit more. She has the more fame-oriented career path, yet unlike the other girls, like Cure, I don't remember their names. The one from Go-Go, the one from Smile, I don't know. What she has that they didn't have, she carried confidence with her, while the other yellows were a bit more antsy, a bit more shy, maybe more timid. And I thought that made Cure Twinkle, she's a bit higher on my yellow ranking, we'll say. The standout character of the season to me was not a Cure. It was Yui, who should have been a Cure. She was awesome. She always helped the girls. I enjoyed every second of her. Love, love, love. The mid-season Cure was Cure Scarlet. I did enjoy her. She was a very visually stunning character, but I always side-eye her because she comes from a dark-skinned family, yet they made her light-skinned. It's a bit icky, a bit, oh, what, really? You wouldn't go there? She is cool, but I just do side-eye that. That's a choice. A choice was made there, and I don't like the choice that was made. I'll leave it at that. Right now, I would want to move the season down, but I think if I rewatched the season, I'd be curious to see if it does go up. I think it could. This is one of the seasons I'm very torn about my placement. So I'm very curious to see how a rewatch would impact that. I don't know if it would go up or down, honestly. Number 7 on my list is Mahosukai Precure, which has a sequel season coming soon. I'm very excited. But on to the topic of today, the season itself. The season had a witchy theme, and it did it well in some elements. I will say, when they were in the magical world, it was so fun, and it was all out magic palooza. When we go back to the human world, there wasn't as much magic. The theme got lost in the shuffle a bit. It wasn't as exciting, I'd say. Fine, it was cool. Just a little, like we could have done a little more there. But yes, I wish they balanced their time between the human world and the magical world a bit more. I think more time could have been spent in the magical world, or we could have brought more elements of that into the human world. But we got what we got, so I will dive into that. This season has one of the best mascots of all Precure with Moffaroon, the lovable teddy bear fairy. I loved Moffaroon. Had me sold from the second I saw that cute little thing. Oh my gosh, I want one so bad. Kururu needs a friend. Come on. I'll be looking. Moffaroon had a fun duo with Hachan, the little fairy, who we saw growing up until she became Cure Felice, the mid-season Cure. Cure Felice, probably my favorite Precure ever. I am obsessed with Cure Felice. Everything about her is amazing to me. She has a killer character design, like the pink with the green, the leaves, and a 10 out of 10 transformation sequence. Every time I watched it, I just stared in awe at how cool it was. Oh my gosh, the plants with the magic, everything about it, just stellar, phenomenal. Give them their 10s. The animators did their thing. And then she's got really cool powers too, and a lovely personality. She's so bubbly and fun and energetic, exciting, just a breath of fresh air in the season. I'm obsessed with Carefully's. Give me all the Carefully's content I can get. Thank you. I think she's the perfect mix of naivete and positivity. That's how I would describe her. Honestly, I think Carefully's easily overshadowed the other two cures this season. I pretty much forgot about them almost entirely. But let that be a testament to Carefully's and Mafuron that this season has ranked so high just based off of them. That's how obsessed I am with them. Now, I probably have more positive thoughts on the cast overall with the rewatch or with the sequel show coming out. We'll see. But Carefully's Mafuron, mwah, phenomenal. Number 6 on my list is Star Twinkle Precure. I'm quite surprised that this season ended up as high as it did, honestly. When I first started it, I was enjoying it at the start, but I was a little thrown off by the musical transformation. That took me out of every episode when it started. It was not bad, it didn't fit. It felt so out of place. So at the start of the season, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna be the best season. It threw me off. But this season went on, and I feel like it was the best execution of a theme in Precure, with the space theme. Not the theme that gets me the most excited. If it got me the most excited, this season would be number 1. This season did the space theme to perfection. Everything you think about when you think of space, it was put into this season. We had the astrological signs. They were collecting them. They used them as power-ups. Like, how cool is that? We had aliens. We had whole arcs in space. We had it all. Everything space was done here. You get your fix of space. I loved it. I loved it. I think it's a masterclass in executing a theme. I do. Jumping back to the singing for transformations, the main issue I had with that is how long it took. The episodes were so good and fun, taking 2 minutes out of every episode to do those long transformations. It was like, ugh, really? And it just got longer and longer with every cure that was added. Oh, okay. I just wanted more of the Star Twinkle Precure world. So the transformation's like, okay, let's get these over with. Let's get the show going. I do think having them sing was like cool and just, why don't we do that on a season themed around singing and not space? Like, okay, whatever. No. Weird choice. I won't get stuck on that for too long now. My standout of this season was Elena, aka Cure Soleil. She was the first dark skin cure. A long time coming. We haven't had another one since, unfortunately. I hope we get another one soon. She was a Mexican Japanese character, and I thought it was really cool to see her, and I thought she was fantastic on the season. I mean, my favorite character on the season, so. She was very family focused, and at the end of the season there, we got a multi-episode arc where she realized that she was doing everything for everybody else, and she had a bit of a crisis, like, what do I want to do with my life? It was a very compelling and relatable struggle that she dealt with, and it had a touching resolution. That scene with her and her mother, oh, pulls at the heartstrings. I did like the whole cast of Cures. Like, I was very drawn to our main Cure at the start. We had Cure Milky, who I found to be obnoxious and annoying at first, but then I grew to really love her. Like, I really love her. I love Cure Milky now. So it's like, wow, look at the growth. Look at the growth. She's fun. The mid-season Cure Uni, aka Cure Cosmo, I loved as a character on her own. Cure Cosmo had a great dynamic with Iwarn, the villain, former villain. I love seeing their dynamic. And Cure Cosmo had a great independent arc. She did not mix with the team at all. She always felt like the odd one out. She always felt like she was doing her own thing. I don't think this season needed her. I enjoy her though, I do. And also seeing her cat form took me out every time. If you get it, you get it. But good storyline for Cure Cosmo regardless. Also shout out to Fuwa. Fuwa's original form, one of the cutest mascot designs I've seen. The second form, it wasn't as cute for me. It was still cute. But that first design with the planets as the ears or the hair or whatever, oh, I was obsessed. But yes, overall, I was surprised that this season, being a space theme and all, ended up sticking with me so much. Top 5! And starting out with number 5, Kira Kira Precure a la Mode. This is the season that most took me by surprise, I would say. I had such a good time with it. We had the dessert theme. I guess they kind of mixed it with the animals, but it was dessert theme, please. Delicious Party, in comparison, it's like, wow. Why would you even try to compete with this? Embarrassing for Delicious Party, because the dessert theme was handled to perfection here. Every little detail was dessert theme. Like, just the smallest touches. We had the baking or decorating walkthroughs at the ends of a lot of the episodes that were just so fun. They really completed everything, put a bow on it. They would be themed after what was made in the episode. Just the little touches meant a lot, and the detail work here was excellent. Despite lacking hand-to-hand combat in the season, I still found the fight scenes to be engaging personally. I know that was a problem for a lot of people, but I didn't have that problem. Maybe I would notice it more on a rewatch, but it never really stuck out to me until it was pointed out to me. No. The lesbians. The lesbians made the season. We had Yukari and Akira. Cure Macaron and Cure Chocolat. They did a lot of the heavy lifting character-wise, especially Yukari, who I really took to. Adore her. Lesbians, yes. And then in the mid-season, we got Cure Parfait, all coated in rainbow. Like, yes, LGBT icon, absolutely. But I loved her too. She was an excellent character. I thought she did mesh well with the group. Unlike some other mid-seasons, I thought she was one of the better mid-season Cures. Definitely a standout for me. Cure Parfait's dynamic with the villain turned good guy Bibbery was another dynamic that I really enjoyed this season. Bibbery, shout out, you're awesome. Cure Custard and Cure Gelato were fine. They got lost in the shuffle in a season of standout characters, unfortunately. What are you gonna do? But overall, this was such a fun season. I don't have any complaints, really. I love to complain, but I can't really say anything bad about this season, and that's why it's ended up so high.
I can't say anything bad about her, and I excel at saying bad things about people.
Just so much fun. What a blast Kira Kira Precure a la Mode is. Oh, I could watch the season forever. Number 4 is Hokuto Precure. Surrounded by seasons with such strong themes, The season's theme was more understated for Hugtail. The theme was very much the future and hugging, I guess. It's not comparable to like space, princesses, witches. I think due to that, the season is a little forgettable for me. But everything I remember about it, I enjoyed it. I had time. Clearly, I ranked it so high. I had a good time. It has some great hand-to-hand combat, some great fight scenes overall. A lot of fun in the action department this season. The season had a very compelling storyline that all came to a great close in the finale when we jump into the future and we see where everybody ends up. I was boohooing a little bit, just a tad. Oh, it was so just heartwarming, touching, a little bittersweet maybe. Perfect ending, really. And that's probably part of the reason why it's ended up as high as it has, because of that ending. The original 3 cures of the season followed the same pink, blue, yellow formula. Probably caused them to not stick out as characters as much. For me, I definitely did enjoy them as characters. I really did. I think these are some of the stronger people of their respective colors, but they have a lot of competition. I've seen it so many times at this point. I'm like, okay, I get it. I did struggle at the beginning to really get invested in the season until we got the debuts of Emeru and Ruru, Cure Mashiri and Cure Amour, also known as the Precure of Love, the duo. We finally got another duo. It was so exciting. And what a duo they were. I love seeing them come together. The villain and the younger girl. I was not expecting them to pair up like they did, but I'm so glad they did. They had such a fun chemistry, and they really stick out as quite a unique mid-season route to take. Even though we had the classic villain to hero in there that Precure loves to do, she was put in a duo, which was like a new spin on it. I appreciated bold swing that was taken here, and I really feel like it landed and it added a lot to the season. These two characters, excellent. Despite maybe forgetting some of the details in the season, I still remember this season fondly, and I remember really enjoying it. So I'm happy with where it is right now. I feel like it could move on a rewatch. This is one of the seasons that I'm pretty curious to further explore. Now we're at the top 3. These seasons are quite special to me. Number 3 is tropical-rouge Precure. This was the season I found, and it got me into Precure because I saw Tropical. I love Tropical. I love Tropical. So I was like, I will watch anything Tropical. So I just hopped in. I didn't know what I was getting into. I got so hooked on tropical-rouge Precure. Here I am now discussing all the seasons. Tropical-rouge Precure got me into it, and that's why I always have a love for it. I found it. I watched it every week. I was here for it. I got Kururun over here. I was watching it with Kururun.
That's history.
This season was made for me. Of all the Precure seasons, this theme, it draws me in the most. It was well executed. It perfectly captures the tropical vibes in every way. I really want to rank this season number 1, but I had to nerf it a little bit because I know I have so much bias towards it. The tropical being my first season, everything was working for this season. I think a rewatch could move it to number 1. I wish I just want to scooch it. I really want to, but number 3. Number 3. The season feels like chilling on a beach. It's very fun with the cures. They're a good time. They've all got lively personalities, and that fits for a beach. But the villains, they're more chill and relaxed. They're very threatening, but there's not a rush. Everything's just so easy breezy at the beach, and that works for the season. The main villain is the Witch of Delays. She's like, she'll come whenever. It's cool. It's so funny. I mean, I'm sure some people found that annoying. Like, oh my gosh, you're just using that as a stall tactic. But No, I think it really works for a tropical theme. Like, there's no rush. You're not rushed when you're chilling out on the beach. Like, yeah, it made total sense to me. I understood it. Maybe not everybody else understands, but I understand. Speaking of the villains, they really stick out to me. I loved all the individual villains who would appear throughout the season. But then you got the Witch of Delays, who was a very interesting case. I think she's the only main villain that I'm mentioning by name in this video. That's for a reason. She had a tragic backstory with Cure Oasis, who was a legendary Precure. We see them reunite, and the Witch of Delays gets her happy ending. And, oh, my heart. It was amazing to see. I was so happy for the Witch of Delays in that moment. They've had their fall apart. They had all these years of confusion. Everything worked out in the end. You love to see it. Honestly, I didn't expect the season to take such an emotional turn because it just had been so much fun. But it worked. It didn't like throw you off. They executed it really well with the Witch of Delays. And the final arc was very good. Now, the cures themselves. The lead cure this season was Manatsu, aka Cure Summer. She's just so lively and energetic. She has a lot of the traits of previous lead cures, but I feel like she's the most energetic of them all. I have worked Tropica Shine into my daily vocabulary. Tropica Shine, yes, absolutely. I feel the Tropica Shine vibes running through me on the daily, absolutely. Now, without a doubt, the season standout was Laura, aka Cure La Mer. She had all the sass to make for an entertaining comedic character as the mermaid sidekick, but she was grounded through her connections with all of the girls. She had her goal of becoming the queen. I love that. A girl with ambition, absolutely. She had the summer vibes down, like she had a mermaid tail, please. Nailed it. She had an epic transformation and she had some cool sequences with her powers. Oh, seeing her Cure La Mer transformation for the first time, jumping out that water, she's got her legs. Nothing can compare. Another standout amongst the cast, not to the same degree as Laura, who's leagues above most cures. Like, oh my gosh, what a character. But there was Azuka, aka Cure Flamingo. She was the older girl, and I feel like she had a lot of the cool hand-to-hand combat fight moments. I can't think of any other cure that's really like her. And for that, I'm like, yeah, you do you. Awesome character. I even got to give a shout out to Sango, aka Cure Coral, who was very unique for a purple cure. She was more timid, but she still held her own, and I really appreciated that. I loved her red X that she'd use to shield in the fights. Very simple and basic, but that's what makes it so fun. Like, just a red X, and bam, defeated. Awesome. There's just one cure that I didn't mention, and I'm not mentioning her because she laser-eyed my Kurun. Don't mess with my Kurun. I've not forgotten that moment. So speaking of my beloved Kururun, one of the best mascots of all time. It's Kururun, it's Monferun. Who's competing with them? I am obsessed with Kururun. Obsessed! Like, clearly. Do I need to say much else? What a source of comedy. Truly. And had some great assists, would like find exits that the girls just could not find. And it was always a good laugh, but Kururun, very helpful at times. Maybe not in the fights, but we did get that one time we got Cure Kururun. Oh my god, that was so epic. We just had Kururun running around and uttering the iconic Kururun, Kururun, Kururun. I loved it. Oh, Kudoden's presence was always just the best. I'm obsessed. I truly. So adorable, so fun. I can't say enough nice things about Kudoden. I have nothing but nice things to say about this season. I love it so much, and I think it'll just go up this list. I truly do believe that. I do. But for now, it's number 3. Now, moving on to number 2, we've got Heartcatch Precure, what a lot of people consider the best season of all time. Objectively, it probably is the best season. Truly. It's the darkest season. What a storyline it had. A gripping storyline that had me on the edge of my seat on multiple occasions. It was so dark at times though, like wow. It took guts to make some of those decisions in a kid's show. You wouldn't expect to see a lot of the things you saw in Heartcatch Precure. I don't think it ever crossed the line though. I think it had a good balance. The story just had so many twists and turns. Amazing. Amazing Heartcatch Precure is. I'll dive into the cures. Tsubomi, aka Cure Blossom, started out very weak and pathetic, but we really got to see her grow and evolve over the season, and it was a very compelling arc. We also had Erica, aka Cure Marine, who was very much in the duo with Cure Blossom. She was definitely the comedic source of the season. She was the fashionista in a season based around fashion. It was like a fashion theme and a flower theme. The flower theme was well incorporated through Tsubomi's grandmother, who was revealed to be the first legendary Precure. It was so cool to see Cure Flower doing her thing. But yes, having Tsubomi around as the botanist, and she would tease a lot of the mysteries. She knew her stuff, and you always had to keep your eye on her. Everything got revealed at the end. What a cool character Tsubomi's grandmother was. The mid-season Cure, Cure Sunshine, aka Itsuki, she started out dressing as a boy, doing a lot of the boy activities, but as the season went on, we got to see her embrace her girly side. This was a storyline that really resonated with me because I've also been told to like neglect girly interest. But no, you gotta be yourself, and Cure Sunshine was a great example of that. And Cure Sunshine, positivity, glowing. Like, what a character. Truly, one of the mid-season cures to all ever mid-season Cure, absolutely. The standout of this season is Yuri, aka Cure Moonlight. She had the tragic, shocking revelation. Her fairy sidekick, Clone, was lost, and she retired from being a Cure after losing her best friend, who we saw her lose on screen. Like, wow. I didn't think I'd see death on Precure. I was shocked. We see Yuri overcome that trauma and step back into the fold as Cure Moonlight and help save the day. And it was really nice to see. She also had the jaw-dropping revelation of Dark Precure, who, awesome. Like, I don't even need to elaborate, was her sister, and her father was the big bad. Like, oh my god, I never would have guessed. Like, crazy. Goodness, that girl. They put Yuri through everything. She was going through it, but she persevered. What a strong character. Shout out to Kope, who was another cool mascot and just the big green guy and just sat around being like a source of comfort for everybody. I always got a good laugh out of Kope's presence.
コッペ様？
ファイトって励ましてるのよ。
This season didn't rank first for me because the episodes that weren't plot heavy, I found them to be some of the most boring episodes of Precure. Maybe not of Precure overall, but like of the good seasons, their non-plot episodes stuck out to me as being pretty bland, basic, and forgettable by comparison So I wish there was a bit more balance in those episodes. That's just like a tiny nitpick. Like, they were still good episodes. Most of them were. They were still good. Just kept it from being number one, really. So finally, we arrive at number one on my ranking of the 20 seasons of Precure. It's fresh Precure. The name describes it perfectly. It was fresh. Watching that right after Go-Go, it was a breath of fresh air. It breathed new life into the franchise. And this season, just wow. It's the last season that really had all the heart and the charm of the early days of Precure for me, but it still had a lot of the newer elements that I enjoyed. The pacing was a bit tighter. I feel like it's just like the best of both worlds. The main standout of Fresh Precure would be the villainess, Ace, who becomes Cure Passion, the first mid-season cure, and they did a bit of a fake out. Everybody thought it was going to be Mitsuki, but then it turned out to be the villain who made her redemption and became Cure Passion. I love it. It was so cool to watch play out. Like, I kind of had an idea. Like, I could tell it was not gonna be anybody but Ace. I love a villain. Villains are a staple in any show. You need a good villain, and Ace was a good villain. But you still loved her. She was connecting with the girls. You could find yourself rooting for her. And then she finally takes it all away. She becomes Pure Passion, also Setsuna. And it's just, it was glorious to witness. And oh, it just, oh, you just love it. You love to see it. Of the official cures, definitely the best villain to hero of them all, Cure Passion is. But I also love all the other girls too. I think it's a pretty well-rounded cast. In particular, I found Cure Berry to be a bit obnoxious at first, but it was around the time when she was taking care of Chiffon, who, one of the cutest mascots, by the way. It was the episode where she was taking care of Chiffon where I was like, you know what? I really do like you. And by the end of the season, Cure Berry was like one of my favorites. I think, wow, I didn't expect that. I know she's not the most popular, but shout out Cure Berry. I like you. I think this season ranks so high for me because it does have the old school charm. It has all the heart. It doesn't have as many of the smaller flaws. It comes right after the Yes 5 chaos, which was a little icky. So it got a bump from that for sure, a positivity bump. I just adore this season. I'm very curious to see how this season would hold up on a rewatch. I'm pretty sure it would still remain pretty high, because please, my opinions don't change that much. But would it be able to hold number one? I don't know. I adore this season. I'll always adore this season. I think it has so much going for it. I think it's so much fun. And it really feels like a perfect Precure season that captures everything. 10s. 10 out of 10. Love it. That wraps up my thoughts on the 20 seasons of Precure. Life feels empty without having Precure episodes to watch now that I've seen them all. So I'm probably gonna have to do some rewatching soon. And I will be discussing Precure much more in the future. It holds a place in my heart, and that will never change. Oh, I love it. Precure for life. The power of friendship. And everything the best anime has to offer. But that's it from me. Until next time, bye.